Hey, Alex Sanfilippo here. You're listening to episode 0753 of the Stuff File program with your host, Peter Anthony Holder. Now let's get into the episode.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
Now, it's time for an eclectic mix of interviews and some of the oddest news stories you'll ever hear. It's the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Hey there, hi there, ho there! Peter Anthony Holder here with you, and yes, this is indeed another edition of the Stuff File program, number 0753. And coming up on this edition of the Stuff File program, you'll meet legendary television producer-director Jeff Margolis, who has just written his memoir called We're Live in 5, My Extraordinary Life in Television. He started his amazing career by doing cue cards on Let's Make a Deal, but it was always his goal to work in the control room as a director.
Even though I was only doing cue cards, I used to ask if I could wear a headset, which I would plug into the cameraman that I was standing next to and listen to what was going on. So I listened and I learned over the headset. And then sometimes I would work it out so that I didn't have to be on the floor during a certain segment of the show, that I could go up into the control room and sit behind the director and watch what was going on. So I was really determined to continue to move and to get to where I wanted to get as soon as I could get there.
Stuart Nullman is in with another edition of Book Banter.
Hi, I'm Stuart Nullman, and on Book Banter we go on the road again with Rick Mercer as we explore some of the memorable reports he did for the Rick Mercer Report with his second volume of memoirs called The Road Years. Join us for this fun all-Canadian journey. We depart soon on the Stuff File program.
And there's lots and lots of Stuff File news and, of course, an idiot of the day. The guest slater, the person who told you this was show number 0753, was Alex Sanfilippo, who is the founder of Podmatch, a podcast and radio booking service that automatically matches ideal guests and hosts together. Think of it as an audio dating service between hosts and guests. Podmatch has generated over 75,000 interviews among its almost 11,000 members, of which the Stuff File program is one of them. We've had some great guests over the years, courtesy of Podmatch. It's an excellent service. And Alex, by the way, is also the host of the entrepreneurship podcast called Creating a Brand. Thank you very much, Alex, for doing the guest slate on this edition of the Stuff File program, a show that is listener-supported, fan-funded radio that depends on you for our success. Join us at patreon.com to help make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. Well, let's get right to the stuff. Pet owners who are exceedingly attached to their furry friends sometimes go to the trouble of having them preserved through taxidermy after they die. After her Roborovsky dwarf hamster Hammy passed away last year, 27-year-old Jess Porter Langson, who lives in Brighton, UK, sought out B. Otrovska, a local taxidermist, hoping to immortalize her beloved pet as a pole-dancing stripper. Said Porter Langson, "This hamster was so iconic, and all my friends knew Hammy and wanted to see him. He needed something special." Ostrovska posed Hammy on a small platform with a pole and sewed a little thong for him to wear, which was stuffed with tiny dollar bills. Again, Porter Langson said, "He's got this creepy little smile going on. I was blown away. What is more iconic than a hamster on a stripper pole hustling for money?" That's her quote, not mine. And that should be the quote of the day, which kind of makes you wonder what she made Hammy do when he was alive. Yeah. The Lexington, Kentucky Convention and Visitors Bureau appears to be desperate for tourists. It is using an infrared laser to send messages towards potentially habitable planets in a solar system 40 light years away, luring extraterrestrials with lush green countryside and famous bluegrass. Lexington native Robert Lauder an expert in astrobiology, and SETI, which is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, conceived the idea, and linguistics expert Dr. Andrew Bird consulted. Said Bird, "We included the molecular structure for water, bourbon, and even dopamine, because Lexington is fun. See you in 2064. I'm sorry. Does every visitor to Lexington, Kentucky get dopamine? Or just the extraterrestrials?
E.T. phone home.
In the state of Florida, schools are reaching new heights as they continue to widen the net when it comes to banning books due to an expansion of the Parental Rights in Education law, probably better known as Don't Say Gay law. The Escambia County School District seems to be leading the body count, with more than 1,600 books banned or under review as part of the banning process. In addition to the usual suspects, and that's anything with an LGBTQ theme or any hint of sexual conduct, among other things, the most recent batch includes the Guinness Book of World Records, encyclopedias from 8 publishers, and 5 dictionaries.
Look that up in your Funkin' Wagnalls.
That's a dictionary, you know.
PEN America, which is keeping a list of books being banned or challenged, has sued the district, joined by groups of authors, local parents and students, Penguin Random House, and the Florida Freedom to Read Project. Gee, I wonder where they're keeping this list and if it's secure.
They've been kept in a mayonnaise jar on Funkin' Wagnall's porch since noon today. No one knows the answers inside these envelopes.
You know, once properly censored, the very slim book of words will go back on the shelf renamed as Shanary. Yeah, because we can't have that first syllable on there anymore. 42-year-old Jessica Beatty of Clearwater, Florida, thought she might throw off the court by submitting someone else's urine for a mandated drug test. She didn't choose just any old random donor, though. She allegedly collected urine from her aunt's dog.
I have to pee.
Beatty was arrested on December 28th for possession of drug paraphernalia and driving with a suspended license. She had priors for cocaine possession and other offenses. When she was confronted on January the 11th for her fraudulent urine sample, she admitted that it wasn't her pee. Gee, I wonder what excuse she gave for not supplying her own urine.
I tried to go, but there was a man standing next to me, so it just went away.
Her bond is likely to be revoked, sending her back to jail. You see, this is a problem of substandard education. If she had paid any attention in school, she'd know that the urine of different species is, well, different, especially in a lab setting. By the way, nowhere in the report did it state how she collected the dog urine. Just let your imagination wander on that point. Yeah. Okay. Everyone knows that, depending on the brand, opening a bag of potato chips can be as challenging as breaking into a bank vault, especially if you're hungry. But on January the 3rd, a 75-year-old man in Dalton, Georgia, used an unorthodox and dangerous method that landed him in the hospital. The man tried to use a lighter to get his chips open, resulting in third-degree burns to about 75% of his body and the recliner that he was sitting in. Chips, with their high concentration of fat and carbohydrates, are highly flammable. Yeah, next time, try the scissors. Methinks this is another example of a substandard education. Anyway, moving right along, with freezing weather causing slippery surfaces, NHS Scotland, the country's health service, is advising people on how to safely move about the streets. Experts suggest that folks walk like a penguin, with toes pointed out slightly, knees loose, and arms extended out from the sides.
March of the Penguins, the next step.
Walkers should take short steps and keep their center of gravity over their feet, said Dr. Amelia Crichton, Director for Public Health at NHS GGC. While it may seem silly to walk or waddle like a penguin, the alternative may be a nasty injury or even time in hospital. Penguins know best. Really? You think so? I mean, I learned as a child while watching nothing but educational TV that penguins don't always know best.
Penguin, are you sure you haven't gone stir crazy? How dare you mock me on the eve of my greatest triumph?
And speaking of birds...
How do you do? My name is Alfred Hitchcock, and I would like to tell you about our good friends, the birds.
In southwest London, patrons outside a Greg's Bakery are being warned of attacks by hungry crows. 23-year-old Paris Singh, who works nearby, said, "It's happening every day. They all swoop down in a frenzy." 27-year-old Jay Bays, a barber, said, "On Thursday, a woman was eating a bacon sandwich. The crow tried to rip it out and nearly scratched her head." Locals are hoping the city council will call in a falconer to scare the crows away. You know, it's just like something you'd see in a movie. What was that film? It's on the tip of my tongue. I just can't put my finger on it.
They're coming! They're coming!
Anyway, let's get to our first guest here on this edition of the Stuff File program, shall we? Emmy Award winner Jeff Margolis is one of the most successful live TV event directors and producers of all time. And he has just come out with his memoir entitled We're Live in 5, My Extraordinary Life in Television. Jeff joins us via Zoom from Nashville. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Peter, how are you?
Just tickety-boo. Thanks very much for being on the program with us. I have watched your career basically since day one. You did things like the Sonny and Cher show, the Tony Orlando and Dawn. You did Whitney Houston Live. Love Will Save the Day. You did the Jerry Lewis Telethon. You've done a lot of live television or event television. And this all started as a kid when you sat in the control room on the game show Let's Make a Deal, which was hosted by your uncle, Monty Hall. What was it about the control room that was awe-inspiring to you?
From the time I was 5 years old, I had a dream. Seriously, at 5 years old, my dad was in the electronics business. And one night he brought home this little box with a piece of glass on the front of it. He plugged it into the wall, and there were people inside that box. And I couldn't figure out how they got in there. And I became fascinated with television. I started dreaming about one day being involved in television somehow. And as I got older, I learned that there was a director who told the people what to do and took the camera shots and all that. Anyway, when I was going to UCLA Film and Television School, my grandpa said, "You've got a cousin who is moving to Los Angeles. He's coming from Canada through New York. He's coming to Los Angeles. His name is Monty Hall. Even though he's your second cousin, we don't call second cousins. We call them aunts and uncles. So he'll be your Uncle Monty." So Monty came to Los Angeles. My grandfather put us together. I told Monty what my dream was, what I'd been doing. You know, all the way through junior and senior high school, I was always on stage crew and trying to take any class I could to learn about sound and lights and all of that. And so Monty was kind enough to say, "Let me help you." And I said, "I'd love to get a job. I'm going to UCLA now, and I work my schedule out so that I have time to go to school and work." And I said, "I know that the starting point for most people is in the mail room, or as they were called, pages, which is an usher, the people who let the audience in for the shows and make sure they get out of the studio and all of that." I said, "I really don't want to do that. I want to be standing on a stage or be able to go into a control room and really see how everything's done." So he introduced me to the guy who owned the cue card company that was doing cue cards on Let's Make a Deal. And I met with him and he hired me. I started doing cue cards on Let's Make a Deal, and I was able to stand on the stage with the cameras and the boom mics and the stage managers and the prop guys. And I was in heaven. You know, I saw it all coming together the way I always dreamed about it. So he opened the door for me. I left Let's Make a Deal, went to the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, where I became very friendly with Tommy Smothers. May he rest in peace. We just lost him a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Anyway, Tommy helped me start my own cue card company, gave me the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour as my first show. from there on, I was able to do cue cards on a number of different shows and continue to learn. And then I kept the company running, and I moved up to becoming an associate director, which they're called in television film. They're called an assistant director. So I became an associate director, and then I was on my way. I just flew from there, and then went into directing. And then so I started in 1968, really, on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, and Let's Make a Deal, 67, 68. And by 1976, I had my own production company.
Was it a big leap for you from the studio floor as with your cue card company? Was it a big leap for you from there to the control room?
Not really. I had spent so much time in the control room, and I used to ask, even though I was only doing cue cards, I used to ask if I could wear a headset, which I would plug into. The cameraman that I was standing next to was always kind enough to let me plug in and listen to what was going on. So I listened and I learned over the headset. And then sometimes I would work it out so that I didn't have to be on the floor during a certain segment of the show, that I could go up into the control room and sit behind the director and watch what was going on. And so I was really determined to continue to move and to get to where I wanted to get as soon as I could get there. And, you know, I'll tell you, sometimes you get unbelievable opportunities like Monty gave me, but you got to have the talent to back it up. Because, you know, people can tell whether you're into it for the right reasons or whether you're just into it for the glory. And you don't make it very far if that's the case. So you need to have the talent to back it up when you get the opportunity, which I did. And I knew that I had the talent. I was very musical as a kid. I played the piano, I played the guitar, I played the flute. I love music. My dad had a record collection with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and Ella Fitzgerald and Tony Bennett. And, you know, music was in my life. Anyway, I want to say it probably came a little bit easier to me to understand everything that was going on as I started to listen and learn. So it was not difficult making the transitions.
Well, with your uncle on camera as a host of Let's Make a Deal, and also with your interest in music and the fact that you could play instruments, was there ever an idea that you would be in front of the camera and not behind the camera when you were growing up? Or was that always a situation where you wanted to be a director?
Never wanted to be in front of the camera. Always wanted to be behind. And Monty was kind enough. You know, I did Let's Make a Deal for a very short amount of time. And the guy who owned the cue card company, on the days I wasn't doing Let's Make a Deal, when I wasn't going to school, he put me on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, which had just started as well, which is where I met Tommy. You know, I told Monty that I had this opportunity to be on a music variety show, which was really what I wanted to do. And, you know, Monty and I gave each other a hug and a kiss, and he said, "Good luck. I'll see you in the hallways. And if you ever need anything, call me and I'll see you at Grandpa's house for dinner." You know, that was it. I spent as much time on the stage floor as I could and as much time in the control room as I could. And I just listened and learned, and I had a real good sense of what was going on. And when music variety, you know, when I started, television was in its infancy, really. And between the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour and a show called Laugh-In, those two shows sort of changed the face of television in music and comedy. I mean, the Smothers Brothers had everybody in music on their show who no other show would book. Heavy rock and roll groups, singers like, you know, people like Linda Ronstadt, who was just getting started, and another guy named Donovan, who was, you know, a solo artist just getting started. And groups like Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention and Jim Morrison, and nobody else would book them on a show, and the Smothers Brothers did. And then George Schlatter, who produced Laugh-In, found all of these incredible young comedians, gave them start like Goldie Hawn and Artie Johnson and Lily Tomlin, and, you know, the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, you're talking about the television of my life, basically. But I gotta ask you, in writing this book, We're Live in 5, My Extraordinary Life in Television. You've done so many things, and the ones that really catch my eye are when you did the Academy Awards and also the Emmy Awards, because those are juggernaut shows to produce each and every year. But I'm just curious to know, in writing this book, sometimes when you have your head down and you're working and you're doing all of the things that you've done in your career, but when you have the chance to look back at it in the writing of a book, do you stand back and say, my gosh, I've done a lot?
I did. You know, the book is 50 years of my career. And as I started writing the book and putting it together and looking at my list of credits and my bio and everything, I thought, some of the shows I looked at and I said, oh my God, did I do that? You know, I've done so much. I've done over 175 specials, and that's a lot of hours of television, plus all of the award shows, plus all of the series that I've done. It's a lot of television. And yes, I look back and say, boy, was I blessed. I got into television, like I said, when it was in its infancy and it was growing, and I got to grow with it and had the opportunity to do so much. And there were a lot of people who had the opportunity and didn't make it because they didn't have the talent. You know, it was a time when you needed to have the talent. Tony Orlando and Dawn was my first network primetime weekly television series on CBS. And I was a baby. You know, I was in my early 20s when I got that show, and somebody gave me an opportunity to do that. Two gentlemen named Saul Elston and Ernie Chambers, who, by the way, I'm still friendly with today. They're both in their 90s, and they're both still working, and they're sharp as ever, and we've remained friends all this time. You know, a network primetime weekly series on CBS, you better be, you know, on the top of your game, and you better have the talent to corral all those people, talent plus the crew, plus the production staff. You know, you're in charge. You better have the ability to keep it all together.
We're talking with Emmy Award winner Jeff Margolis, one of the most successful live TV event director-producers of all time. His memoir is called We're Live in 5, My Extraordinary Life in Television. We're going to take a quick break and continue talking with Jeff on the other side. You're listening to the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
There's still more guests, more news, and an idiot of the day coming your way on the Stuff File program. Stay tuned. The Stuff File program is a listener-supported, fan-funded radio show that depends on you for our success. Join us at patreon.com to help make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. Sign up and find out about our rewards program. Being a patron doesn't have to be a long-term commitment. There's absolutely no obligation. You could join today and end whenever you'd like, but the time we have your support would be so greatly appreciated. We'd also love to hear your thoughts about the show and even your ideas for rewards. Join us for the ride. Join us at patreon.com/The Stuff File program. Available on Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and just about every other way you stream audio. This is the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder. It's radio that's everywhere you want to be. And some places you don't.
And still to come on the program, we will have another edition of Book Banter with Stuart Nullman. And of course, we do have more Stuff File news coming your way. Plus, as usual, we do indeed have an Idiot of the Day a little later on in the show. But let's continue with our conversation with the legendary Emmy Award-winning Jeff Margolis, one of the most successful live TV event director-producers of all time. His memoir is called We're Live in 5, My Extraordinary Life in Television. And Jeff, with your half-century in the business, have you enjoyed some of the recent advances in technology? In other words, if you could go back to when you first began, if you had then what you could have now as far as production capabilities are concerned, who knows what you could have done even then?
Right. Well, listen, you got to read the book because you'll see, I talk about the changes that take place. And of course, you know, I've slowed down a little bit. I took over 3 years to write the book. And during that 3-year period of time, I actually turned down directing, being asked to produce or direct or both certain shows, because the book was really important to me. And I had moved to Nashville and I really wanted to do this. So I saw a lot of the changes in technology that were taking place during that period of time when I chose to write the book. And it's fascinating to me how in the 2000s, things started to change like they changed in the 1970s when all the changes were. And it was more with the technology, all the things you could do. My son is a camera operator and a director. And sometimes he does he does camera on some of these music award shows. I did the American Music Awards for 26 years. And it was such a great experience for me to be able to do that. And I was able to try new things. And every time there was a new piece of technical equipment, I was able to try that. But since the 2000s, I mean, there's a new piece of technical equipment that comes out every day. A show like Dancing with the Stars, for example, has 14 cameras on it, 15 cameras to shoot Dancing with the Stars. In the 70s and 80s, if I had done that show, I would have been given 4 cameras. That would have been it. And you made it work with 4 cameras. Now, the luxury of having all of these cameras that do all of these different types of things that make the show look richer, make it more interesting to the audience because you can see so much more. You can get in, when a camera operator takes a steady cam shot. Do you know what a steady
Absolutely,
cam is?
yes.
Of course.
Yes.
I'm sure your audience does as well. But you take a steady cam and you move around a couple dancing and you get to see their faces, and you see the tension in their faces and the memory of remembering the steps. And it's so much more interesting than just seeing a head-on, head-to-toe shot of the two of them dancing. So all of this enhancement of technology has been so wonderful. We had it, but not nearly, what has happened now. I think the most cameras I ever had was on the Academy Awards, which was the biggest entertainment special award show on television. And I had to beg to get 14 or 15 cameras for that show. And, the Academy Awards is quite a bit bigger than Dancing with the Stars. I'm not putting Dancing with the Stars down in any way at all. I love that show, and I think it's very well done, and I love watching it, and I think it's very entertaining. But, I had to beg ABC and beg the Academy to get 14 cameras. When I took the show over, there were only 7 cameras. And within a couple of years, I had 14 cameras. And it just gave me an opportunity to do so much more directorially, because I didn't have to worry about breaking 5 cameras away in the middle of a musical number to be sure to get the upcoming shot of the nominees that were being announced in the next award category. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep, I know exactly what you're saying. And I think we watched it the other night in just recently with the Emmys that took place. You could see exactly how they were doing things and why they were doing things the way they were doing it for that and any other live show that comes along. But I got to ask one last question because we're just running out of time here. You mentioned don't be sorry at all. You mentioned that it was very, very important for you to write this book, and I'm just curious to know why you felt it was so important, and also who were you thinking of writing it for as far as your reading audience was concerned? Who did you want to get the most out of your story?
I wanted people who love television and have been around with television since the beginning to love all the stories. I wanted college students in film and television to be able to read it and say, oh, I get it. I need to do that before I can do this. Or if I had an opportunity to do this, I'd learn something so that I could move on to the next step. So it had a double meaning. And then all the people that were involved, I worked with thousands of people over the years. Lots of them are still alive, and a lot of them who aren't have family, who were involved with their mothers or fathers who were working. And it's just a good read for anybody who's not involved in television. I didn't want to do a kiss and tell book. I didn't want to throw anybody under the bus. I wanted it to be about my extraordinary life in television, how much I love what I do, the great experiences that I had. And look, not everything's peaches and cream. Not everything's good. You know, you have artists who are difficult. You have things that go wrong, and you better be on your game so you can, when you're live on the air and something goes wrong, you better be sharp enough to keep going and make that problem almost not noticeable. You know, when you're live on the air and something happens and it goes by, it's gone. It's gone. So there's no reason to even think about it once it happens. You just, you know, it is what it is. Well, I think that's where that expression came from.
You've had an amazing, extraordinary career. I mean, the word extraordinary is right there in the subtitle. We're Live in 5, My Extraordinary Life in Television. Again, one quick question.
Sure.
You started off with a company that made cue cards. And I already asked about the technology that has changed in television since the time you started. Are you surprised that in some regards, I think of Seth Meyers' show, for instance, or I think of Saturday Night Live, that cue cards are still around and that people aren't using teleprompters or the like?
Well, I think cue cards came from people not wanting to use teleprompters because they felt like they were reading. They looked, you know, artists looked at themselves, performers looked at themselves, and they looked to themselves like they were reading, like they hadn't memorized. And cue cards can be put wherever a performer is looking, the cue cards can be there. So the audience couldn't tell. Anyway, look, the book is a great read. You love the book. I call it We're Live in 5 because that's the last thing that you hear when you're doing a live television event, which I love. And you usually hear the assistant director, the associate director saying, you know, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 10 seconds, we're live in 5, 4, you know. So that's what I've heard most of my career on a number of the shows that I've done. So I called it that. And then my life in television has been extraordinary. I've met people. I've gotten to do shows. I've traveled. I've had challenges. I've had everything that I ever dreamed about as a kid growing up. That everything, once I started, my goal was to direct the Academy Awards. I mean, because that at the time was the most important show on television. And I wanted to get there, and I did. And so all the stories on my way there, you know, are really interesting stories. And since that time when I did my first Oscars, and, you know, some of these specials with some of the people, you know, an experience that I had with Michael Jackson doing an HBO special, Michael Jackson One Night Only, the show that never happened. You know, the night before the show was live on HBO, he collapsed during the dress rehearsal and the show never happened. But the 4 months leading up to it, I talk about it, the most incredible 4 months of preparing for a special. You know, there's stories like that, and they're interesting stories for anybody to read. And to a student, you know, they can read it and go, holy shit, that happened? He had to work around that, you know? So it's just a great read. It's a great read. I hope you enjoy it.
I'm looking forward to it. And, you know, again, the title is We're Live in 5, My Extraordinary Life in Television. It has been an extraordinary life in television, but it is nowhere near over. And I'm sure you have a lot more to do in television before all is said and done, before it becomes a wrap. Jeff, I thank you very, very much for taking the time to be on the program with us.
You were great, Peter. Thank you so much for having me. Anytime you want to talk, give me a call. I'd love to come back again.
Oh, we'd love to have you back on, Jeff. That was Emmy Award winner Jeff Margolis, a legendary TV director, producer, and the author of his memoir entitled We're Live in 5, My Extraordinary Life in Television. You can go to my website at thestufffile.com, check out the show number for this program, which is show number 0753, and you'll find the link to Jeff's site, plus links to either Amazon.com or Amazon.ca, where you can order his book directly. You're listening to the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
Got something for the mailbag? Drop Peter a line. He'd love to hear from you. Send your email to mailbag@thestufffile.com. And remember, stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's mailbag@thestufffile.com. Or catch up with him on Twitter or Facebook. There's more Stuff File coming your way in just a few moments.
Hello, I'm Peter Anthony Holder, host of the podcast Business Beyond Bizarre. Welcome to our second season. You'll find 10 new episodes with 20 new guests that will regale you, excite you, make you think, and hopefully make you laugh just a little. After all, as the voice lady says,
a podcast of the slightly unusual.
On this season, you'll learn about a Lithuanian potato chip company which has a flavor that is decidedly human. We'll venture into the Icelandic Phallological Museum because size matters. We'll meet a man who pushed a peanut up a mountain with his nose, the woman who runs the Sock Monkey Museum, a man who has over 2,100 pairs of Crocs, the world-famous fashion Santa, and more. It's
Business Beyond Bizarre.
Season 2. As we said last season, it's the show that might just spark you to find your own slightly bizarre path.
From our studios in Montreal, Canada, and going out to the rest of the world, this is the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder. It's time to crack a spine. The Stuff File presents Book Banter with Stuart Nullman. Once again, here's Peter Anthony Holder.
And once again, Stuart Nullman is along with another edition of Book Banter, and this time we're going along for a road trip. Hi, Stu.
Hi, Peter. I would sing, King of the Road or On the Road Again, but I don't want to hurt your ears, so I won't go into it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Not even The Road to Morocco, which I would appropriately substitute Morocco with any other part of Canada. But for this edition of Book Banter, we're going to look at the recently released second volume of memoirs by Rick Mercer, that legendary Canadian comedian, called The Road Years. He had this question in mind when he wrote this book. It's, what does it mean to be Canadian? It may sound like an essay question, but it's the premise of The Road Years. The book covers the 15-year period when he hosted his popular CBC TV series, The Rick Mercer Report. In particular, the times when Mercer and his intrepid three-man road crew crisscrossed the country taping segments for the show to seek the answer to that question. And although he couldn't focus on every segment that was taped and featured on the show, because that would be quite a large book, the behind-the-scenes stories he chose for it quite admirably answers the question he posed to the readers. And the stories that make up this book are funny, entertaining, inspiring, and surprising. One of them that stands out in the early part of the book is one of his rendezvous with personal peril. And that was the time when Mercer took the Fear Factor route and agreed to wear a beard of bees for a segment with this gentleman, Mark Winston, who is known as the Bee Dude. He's a beekeeper in British Columbia, and his vivid description of the bee beard process will heighten the reader's already established fear of bees and their dangerous stings, which is quite evident when you see the look of genuine fear on Mercer's face as he wears his buzzing beard in the first photo section of the book, and which led Mercer to write, making a bee beard is a straightforward process. First up, the person who is volunteering their face is an idiot. Which, he's got a point, I have to admit.
I couldn't agree more.
Then there's his encounters with the previous four prime ministers of Canada, especially Stephen Harper. Now, throughout Harper's decade as prime minister, he was noted as being all business, aloof, and dull. But that was before he agreed to have Mercer tape a segment for the Rick Mercer Report, in which he gave him a tour of the prime minister's residence at 24 Sussex Drive, And that's when his viewers discovered a lesser-known humorous side to Harper. You see, they did a segment in The Residence in which Mercer taught him how to make a peanut butter sandwich. As a result, he invited Mercer to stay overnight while he read to him the Federal Accountability Act as a bedtime story. And then when the following morning, as Harper's kids were leaving the 24/6 to go to school, he handed out bag lunches to the kids and to Mercer himself as he made his way out the door.
Back up a second. He taught the Prime Minister how to make a peanut butter sandwich?
Yeah.
Does that really require instructions?
I guess maybe Harper never learned how to make a sandwich.
I mean, I'm not a peanut butter person.
Yeah.
I've never made a peanut butter sandwich. But if someone said, make me a peanut butter sandwich, I think I can do that.
Well, it reminds me of Rick Mercer's very first Rick Mercer Report broadcast, in which Pierre Burton taught him how to roll a joint.
Okay, well, that takes a little bit of dexterity.
Yeah.
If you've never seen one done, you might not know how to do it properly. But, a knife, peanut butter, and 2 slices of bread. How difficult is that?
Maybe the bread broke when he was trying to spread the peanut butter. Maybe there's a method to spreading the PB.
Well, then you have the wrong peanut butter. That's all I'm saying. Or the wrong bread.
Well, I bet you that the peanut butter used was Kraft peanut butter.
That you said Kraft, right? I just want to make sure because, the distance that you are, sometimes the words come out sounding a little different. You said Kraft.
Yeah, Kraft.
Okay,
that's right.
Just want to make sure. Okay.
So that brought out the human side to Stephen Harper. And then there's Rick Mercer, the philanthropist, which was in the form of a cause that he devoted himself to, called Spread the Net. And it's a challenge that he promoted on his show for about 10 years. And he challenged high schools, colleges, and universities across Canada to raise money so that anti-malaria bed nets can be purchased and distributed to children in Africa that would prevent them from catching this very fatal tropical disease. But there was only one slight problem.
What's that?
The challenge was not extended to elementary schools, which wanted to raise money as well, because malaria mostly affected children. But he relented, and as a result, the Spread the Net Challenge became an integral part of the show for 11 seasons, raised a total of over $2 million, which resulted in the purchase of over 200,000 bed nets.
Wow.
Yeah, is that something? That's the power of Rick Mercer. It's the power of the media, that it can be so far-reaching.
Mm. You mentioned at the beginning that this is his second memoir, and I'm kind of skeptical whenever I hear someone putting out memoirs in volumes.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, I don't know if you've read Barbra Streisand's latest book, because quite frankly, from what I've gathered from it, the tome that it is, I don't think people live long enough to read that book. But that apparently has everything in it.
I did read it. I mean, I didn't finish reading it, but I did start to read it. And right now I'm up to page 50.
Oh, dear Lord. You've got a long way to go.
Yeah, it's a brick. It's a doorstopper, but it doesn't mean it's a dull book.
I've heard otherwise, but again, I defer to you.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you might be getting past the interesting parts at page 50, and you'll have 800 pages of boredom to follow. I don't know.
That I'll have to tell you in a future broadcast.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll be alive by that time. But anyway, let's get back to Rick.
Yeah, so all in all, Peter, I found The Road Years a highly enjoyable memoir that not only shows that Canada is quite a national mosaic of people and cultures, but also provides another dimension to Rick Mercer, not only as an iconic broadcaster or comedian or writer, but also as a great Canadian.
And the book again is?
Called The Road Years by Rick Mercer. It's published by Doubleday Canada, and it's $36.95.
Now, as I said, it's a memoir. So what other books do you suggest in a similar vein? And please do not say Barbra Streisand at this moment.
That thought never crossed my mind, Peter.
Also, do not say Ali MacGraw.
Oh, no. I want to encourage people to read, not scare them away.
Okay.
But they're both Rick Mercer books. First of all, his previous volume of memoirs, Talking to Canadians, which goes up to his early years in Newfoundland up until the creation of the Rick Mercer Report. And I liked it so much. First of all, it won the Leacock Award for humor. And also, I named it as one of my favorite books of 2022. So that's pretty good. And also his first book, which is called Streeters, which is a collection of his famous rants that he did for this hour's 22 minutes. If you want to know Rick Mercer on the state of Canada, the state of the world, these segments were a must-see.
Absolutely. They were great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I saw the genesis of it when I saw Mercer perform in Toronto in 1992. Called his one-man show was called I've Killed Before and I'll Kill Again. And that was the best part of the show, was that rant that he did.
Excellent. So again, this week's book is
The Road Years by Rick Mercer, published by Doubleday Canada, and it's $36.95.
And by the way, I still do have a copy of Ali MacGraw's book.
Really?
I use it for comedic purposes only. Yeah, only. Only.
Is there like a little label you put on the cover of the book for comedic purposes only? It's like if you get a review copy of a record and it says for promotional purposes only.
You know, I actually used it as therapy back in 2015 when I was thinking, or actually when people were suggesting that I write a book, right? And I was always saying, I don't want to write a book. And of course, you know, I wrote Great Conversations, my interviews with Two Men in the Moon and a Galaxy of Stars. I kept saying, I can't write a book. And I don't know if I want to write a book. And I don't know what I'm going to put into a book. And then I'd look on my shelf and I'd see Ali MacGraw's book. And I'm thinking, damn, she wrote a book. Boy, anyone can write a book. So it was inspiration for me.
Why should she stop you?
Well, no, as a matter of fact, it's the other way around. I figured if she could write a book that gets published by someone.
And it's like, then anyone can do it.
Yeah. It's funny because on our next show, we're getting close to Valentine's Day. And on our next show, we're going to be doing romance books. And I have a feeling that one of them is going to lead to a movie that she was in. I just have that sense. But let's leave that alone for the next several weeks.
Yeah, just mentally prepare yourself for this.
Let me have my moment of peace. Okay, anyway, so again, let's just wrap this up. This week's book is
The Road Years by Rick Mercer. It's published by Doubleday Canada, and it's $36.95.
And how can one find you, Mr. Nullman, sir?
Not along the Trans-Canada Highway, somewhere in the middle of Saskatchewan, but the Montreal Times, mtltimes.ca, or my blog, Stuart Nullman's Grapevine. Just go to stuartnullmansgrapevine.wordpress.com.
Thank you very much, Stu.
You're welcome, Peter, and time to get into my beat-up 1957 Edsel.
Okay. Stuart Nullman with another edition of Book Banter here on the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
The Stuff File.
And we still have an Idiot of the Day coming your way, but we've got a lot more Stuff File news right here, right now, so let's get to it. NFL football star Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs has said he's underpaid, but also claims he likes the team so much he'd rather play for them without pay than be traded to another team. Not that he's poor. He's in his third year of a 4-year, $57.25 million contract, and his current net worth is north of $40 million. And he does have 2 Super Bowl rings.
She's a champion! Travis Kelce is a champion! Twice!
Still, that's nothing compared to Olivia Benson. She has her own line of merchandise and even makes cameos in big-budget ads such as for Diet Coke and Ned Sneakers, which has resulted in a net worth for her of around $97 million. And who is Olivia Benson? Well, that's Taylor Swift's cat. Named after the character on Law & Order Special Victims Unit, played by Mariska Hargitay for 25 years, Kelce, as everyone knows, is Swift's boyfriend of the moment. You know, Kelce seems to be fine with the fact that he's dating a billionaire who makes way more than him, but he's got to be concerned about making less than her cat. Yeah. In Oklahoma, a proposed new bill, HB 3084, would prohibit students who purport to be an imaginary animal or species, i.e. furries, from participating in school's curriculum or other activities. Representative Justin Humphrey of Lane, Oklahoma, filed the bill on January 17th. It would also require parents to pick up their furry offspring from school or risk them being turned over to animal control. Leave the cat ears at home, kids. Wow. Does that also eliminate all the high school sports mascots? Just asking. An Orlando, Florida Winn-Dixie supermarket cashier saw a man leaving the store allegedly with several bags of crab legs hidden under his jacket. The manager confronted the man, later identified as 33-year-old Kirk Beck, along with another man who left the store with him. According to the arrest affidavit, Beck tried to give the crab's leg back to the manager, and the manager told him that Winn-Dixie would be pressing charges. Volusia County Sheriff's Office responded and said that when they questioned him, Beck stated he knew what he had done was wrong. They also questioned the man who was with him and determined that he hadn't stolen anything. Instead, he was just Beck's driver due to Kurt's license being suspended. Beck was arrested for shoplifting and violating his probation. Well, he'll need a ride to court. You know, I've been doing Stuff File News for over 30 years, and there is one aspect where I admire Beck. Usually in these stories, the perp is also charged with driving under a suspended license, but that's not the case here. I almost marvel at Beck's restraint in not getting behind the wheel. Kudos, my friend. Kudos. Although in the grand scheme of things, from the court's point of view, this is the worst case of crabs ever. Since January 1st, it became law in Honolulu, Hawaii, for any business with a liquor license to keep the drug naloxone on hand in case it's needed. The drug reverses opiate overdoses. Just a week into the new year, someone shouted that someone was dead in the back and they needed help. So Leoloa Archangel, the manager at Zippy's Vineyard store, grabbed the drug and ran to the back of the store to find that indeed a man was not breathing. She said, "I noticed a needle next to him, so in my head, automatically I thought he overdosed." She sprayed the drug up the man's nose, and within seconds, he woke up. Medics took the man to a hospital in serious condition, said Heather Lusk, executive director of the Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center. "It's easy to use and can really make a difference, and she saved a life." Indeed so. But not everyone has an archangel nearby. Also, what does it say about businesses that have liquor licenses in Hawaii? That there is a law that they have to carry naloxone on the premise? Wow, it seems dangerous to go into a bar. Well, here is a story that is screamingly Canadian. Parks Canada is urging motorists this winter not to let moose lick their cars as the animals crave the taste of road salt, said Parks Canada spokesperson Tracy McKay. "It does sound very funny. It's okay to laugh at it as long as people drive responsibly and do what's best for the wildlife." McKay said she issues the warning every winter as moose tend to wander down to highways to satisfy their salt cravings. However, in doing so, it puts the animals at risk of being killed or injured by a vehicle. While seeing wildlife in real life is a highlight for many, McKay asked motorists not to stop so moose can't get used to licking salt off their cars. Moose and other large animals need sodium in the winter to maintain their bodily functions. Okay, I know the yearly warnings are important, but I'm a tad concerned here. All through my life, I tried to keep my cars in the best shape possible. So I have to ask, why would someone who is about to pass a moose stop and allow a 1,600-pound beast with hooves and antlers come anywhere near their vehicle, never mind lick it? Would I do that? Oh, hell no! Anyway, a man found out that a downtown Pittsburgh bagel shop is not a clothing-optional eatery. Police arrested a man at the Brugger's Bagel Shop after receiving a report that a man was exposing himself. According to court documents, officers saw a naked man standing in the doorway when they arrived at the scene. Police said his eyes were bloodshot and his breath smelled of alcohol. Police said that he also resisted arrest while being put into the police vehicle. 40-year-old Brandon George was charged with indecent exposure, defiant trespassing, disorderly conduct, public drunkenness, and resisting arrest. Wow. Naked at a bagel shop. I don't know. Maybe he was just looking for somebody to play ring toss with. A Florida man found a phone in a bathroom of a Walmart and proceeded to call in a bomb threat. 28-year-old Cody J. Clements is facing a false report about planting a bomb or weapon of mass destruction charge. The Charlotte County Sheriff's Office received a call from a man who said there was a bomb at Walmart in Port Charlotte. The man hung up but answered when cops called back and said, "Tick-tock, tick-tock," before hanging up again. Deputies searched the store and talked with the owner of the phone, who said he had left it in the bathroom and saw 911 calling him on his Bluetooth watch that is connected to his phone. He then pinged his phone to reveal the stall in which he left it. Surveillance video showed the owner of the phone entering and exiting the bathroom shortly before the bomb threat. Then a man, later identified as Clemens, walked into the bathroom and was in the facility when the bomb threat was called in. Clemens then left the store but walked back inside where deputies arrested him. He admitted to making the call, saying he saw people do the same thing on TikTok. Cops arrested him. You know, many of the people on TikTok are called influencers, but many of their followers are just sad little sheep. And boys and girls, it's that moment you've all been waiting for. It's time now for the Idiot of the Day.
And now it's time for the strange things adults do. The Stuff File presents the Idiot of the Day.
At press time, this idiot hasn't been caught, but it's just a matter of time. A Florida man's theft of a surveillance camera backfired when the camera did the very thing it was meant to do: surveil. A construction company bought the camera, valued at $355, to keep watch of the property they were working on. While reviewing the footage, the company caught a clear image of the man as he was stealing the camera. As the sheriff's office wrote, they discovered that the thief had stolen the camera and filmed himself taking it. Now the man's photo has been released and law enforcement is asking the public to help identify the robbery suspect and offering a cash reward for successful tips. As the sheriff's office posted, "It's very unfortunate that he stole the camera, but it certainly did its job." Now, why, oh why, would you want to steal a working security camera? One reason, and one reason only: you're an idiot!
Gee, I'm only a kid, but even I know you're an idiot.
And that's it for this edition of the Stuff File program, number 0753. Hope you enjoyed it. The website is thestufffile.com, and once again, stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H, where you'll find information and links in all of our guests by going to the weekly Stuff File page. Just look for the corresponding program number, and once again, that's 0753. Email me at peter@thestufffile.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Spoutable, Post, Mastodon, and Blue Sky as PA Holder. Check us out on patreon.com, or you can become a patron of the program. Hope to see you back here for our next show on the air, online, or as a download. We're coming to you from everywhere, including KDXRadio.com, TrueTalkRadio.com, over the air on World FM in New Zealand, WLSL-LP-FM in Dade City, Florida, KZZH-LP-FM in Eureka, California, CKUW-FM in Winnipeg, CFMU in Hamilton, CKLU in Sudbury, Local 107.3 FM in St. John, CHSR in Fredericton, and also streaming on just about any streaming service your little heart desires. That's it. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder, a presentation of Flying Fish Communications. The Stuff File reminds you never try to drown your sorrows. They'll just learn to swim anyway.